morning. My name is Ellie and welcome to the LittleFernFibers knitting and crafting podcast. You're joining me at my favorite time of day. I'm not sure if this is going to be a long episode because it's about 5:30 in the morning and the house is quiet, everybody's sleeping, and this is the time of day that I find that I have the most clear of headspace, and it's just my favorite time of day. Kind of a magical time, standing still time. So thank you for joining me, and maybe you're joining me at the same time or another time of day that you find relaxing and clear. And if that is the case, I hope you enjoy it, and I'm glad that you're spending time with me. So thank you for following along. If you would like to look at other videos or subscribe, this is episode number 6, so there's a few more, and yeah, we'll kind of get started. If you're interested, I'm LittleFernFibers. My husband is kind of with it as well on Instagram, but for now doing these videos is every once in a while. But I just find it really fun and a way to kind of get my ideas for my knitting out. So again, with a little bit of an introduction, if you are new here, my name is Ellie. I live in Wisconsin in the United States with my husband, our daughter, and now another daughter that we had. Her name is Millie. She's doing great. She's so beautiful, so sweet. If you watched my last video, I was giant. I had her about, what is it now? Maybe almost just about under 2 weeks ago. And we're all doing great. We're adjusting. It's wild. It's wonderful. But we're doing it and we're figuring it out, and things are going really well. So I'm trying to I have both of their monitors here. My husband is upstairs still sleeping, but if I jump off quickly, that is probably why. So hopefully we get a good chunk of time. There's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, and then the last episode I did ask if people had any questions. So if we have time, we'll kind of go through all of that, but we'll get started. I actually am drinking a cool beverage. I'm drinking coffee this morning. Usually I don't have anything, and I got this sweet little mug from my mom when we came home from the hospital. Just sweet little sweaters on it, and then on the inside it says sweater weather. Okay, so to start, the big thing that I suppose I want to talk about is this sweater that I'm wearing, and it's called the I'm Obsessed jumper. I had started it maybe a little too ambitiously, like right before our daughter was born, but it was so quick to knit. I'll kind of stand up to give you the full effect here without the belly now. It's a really big, chunky knit, big bell sleeves. All the ribbing is twisted rib. So the ribbing here at the bottom, it's semi-cropped. So like my waist is right here, so it's semi-cropped. I made it longer than the pattern called for, and I almost wish I made it a touch longer, but I will. That's okay. So it's I finished it in probably like a week, and super great pattern. It was a new designer to me. Her name is Brenda Lam, and I had like an extra, I think it was Cascade Eco Wool that I used, so it was pretty bulky and chunky. You use like size 11 needles. Knits up super fast. I knit the size 2. Again, I think I wish I would have maybe knit it just a little bit longer here. And when I blocked it, I tried to kind of pull it down. I think I maybe could do a better job of that too, but to be honest, blocking to have it dry took like 4 days, and I was not willing to do it again. So maybe I'll do that in the future, but I decided to go with kind of just like a little, the pattern you can make like a full fold over cowl, or I'm sorry, turtleneck. And I just decided to do a little kind of, I don't know, formed turtleneck here, but I like how it worked out. It's, you know, gives me a good amount of space here. Not that the wool is itchy, but I don't mind that it doesn't like touch my neck there. And then the sleeves, I actually did the sleeves for the size 1. I just wanted them a little bit, not that the few stitches makes too much of a difference, but I just worked them as if I was working a size 1. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. It knit up, again, super fast. The pattern was very easy to follow. And I would say, oh, I would totally knit again, but I'm already knitting it again. This sweater is something that I can definitely see some of the other women in my family wearing. And my mom and one of my older sisters knits, and they're gonna knit it for themselves. And sometimes kind of like in a knit along fashion, so they bought yarn for it. I don't think they've started it yet, but that will be fun to see. And then I am knitting, I don't usually do gift knits just because it's hard. You know the whole story where it's like, I don't, you know, you want people to actually wear it, or people like worthy. When I have knit stuff, I've never seen people wear it, or it's like, you know, not that that's what it's about, but when you put time, especially into like a garment, you really want people to wear it. And this was a sweater that I knew that, you know, like I'm knitting one for my cousin. I could see her in it instantly. And so I had her pick out yarn, and that is actually what I'm working on right now. I started it probably maybe a week ago, but keep in mind, you know, I don't have quite as much time to knit now, but still working up so fast. So keep that in mind, that it really is a quick knit. This is actually Knit Picks Simply Wool Bulky. So she picked this out in this beautiful colorway. I know one of the test knitters for the sweater used this same wool, and it's a really pretty color. So let's see here, where am I? I have one of the shoulders finished and worked up together. So here's one of the shoulders, and I'm just about to kind of get the other shoulder ready to go, but she wanted hers a tad longer too, so that's what I'm working on. Again, it's super quick. This yarn has been pretty great so far. I've never worked with it before, but it's soft. Feels a little drapey, but I feel like that will go well with the pattern, and I feel like it will block really well. So I'm excited to see how this will turn out, and I'm really thinking that she's gonna get a lot of wear out of it. And yeah, so hopefully I'll have it finished next time with like a picture in case I give it to her. I'm not sure if we aren't really like seeing many people right now just with a newborn, so maybe I'll have it, and I'll have it for a while, but I'll show you when it's done. This is that project bag I showed you last time. I just love it. It's two local Wisconsin, whoops, two local Wisconsin artists that did it, Katie Boland and Silverbird Studios. So cool collaboration. Okay, so the other sweater of the same jumper that I'm making is for one of my other sisters, and I can totally see her in it, and she is gonna have it knit in the Knit Picks Wonder Fluff, which I've never worked with before, but when I bought the yarn for my cousin's sweater, she picked this out as well, so, or my sister did. So it's super pretty, really soft. I think it's gonna, this kind of blows it out a bit. It's just like a really deep, rich black with maybe like kind of a gray slightly gray heathered undertone to it. Super fuzzy, super soft, definitely could be next to skin, and I know she's sensitive about that, so I'm excited to knit this one up for her. And yeah, it's kind of fun to, I'm excited for my mom and my sister to start their sweaters, and we'll all have matching sweaters. So these have been super fun. And this Wonder Fluff is, let's see, baby alpaca, nylon, and merino. So I think it will knit up well for this pattern and be drapey and soft and kind of how she would want it to, fit. And the colorway is called Welly's Heather. I'm not quite sure about what the other colorway was for my cousin's sweater, but I will put a link to it. And then I did buy for myself with the intention of knitting another one of these, because I really will wear this a lot. And this is heavy. This is a heavy sweater, which I don't mind, but maybe something a little bit lighter would be good too. So I wanted to try that Wonder Fluff too, and I got it in the colorway Hair Heather. So we'll see. I'm not sure if I'm gonna make another one of these for myself or use it for something else. But I have it. It's soft and it'll be fun to use. So that's that. And everybody is still sleeping. And another thing I've been working on, and this will take a bit longer just because I have really been kind of trying to crank out those sweaters for my cousin and my sister. But another thing that I started kind of right before Millie was born are the Into the Woods socks by Melody Hoffman, who is Bee Mandarins. And I have had this pattern for a few years now, and I started it with 2 different yarns. The first time I had like no idea. I could not figure out the pattern. It was like not right. And then the second time, I think the yarn maybe just was the wrong choice. And so 3rd time's a charm, and I think they're turning out really well. I wanted to do a two colored sock here, and this green is just I think it's, I'm not sure the brand, it's just scrap yarn. It's pretty rustic, and it's kind of like it's really like a mossy, licheny green, but really woolly. And I thought I kind of wanted it to look like pine trees, be reminiscent of the tall pine trees that we have. And then the main color that I'm using is the Acorn dyed, everything in Wisconsin, grown, milled, sold, dyed, you name it, it was in Wisconsin. This is their cast and dye. This is who the yarn is from. They have a store on Etsy. I purchased this at a local yarn store called Cream City Yarn. Cream City was a yarn store that I used to work at a few years ago. And Kate, who is kind of like the head of cast and dye, I used to work with, and I've wanted to try her yarn for a really long time because everything is Wisconsin about it. And this is their fingering weight, and she dyed it with acorns, and it's so great. It's so springy, still sheepy, still has kind of like a sheepy feel to it. I love it. It is going to be so warm for socks. And it's a giant skein. So you can find them on Etsy too. I'm kind of contemplating getting their worsted weight, which is called Supper Club. And maybe doing a sweater. We'll see. But these are the socks. Super basic. The pattern kind of becomes pretty intuitive once you do like the first row or the first kind of set of trees. And instead of doing the heel that the pattern called for, I did an eye of partridge heel, just because I feel like I think we're all good. It's just a matter if my husband hears it. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so I did the eye of partridge heel, and I think the other one that she is in the pattern is just like a slip stitch heel. Again, this is my third pair of socks, so I don't really know much of the sock lingo, but I think this is the eye of partridge heel. I think it looks really pretty, and I think it's really durable. I don't know, and this does not have nylon in it, so I wanted it to be durable. And with that being said, I added nylon thread in it. I'm gonna put a link down to what I purchased, because it's like for knitting. It's nylon thread for knitting, and you can maybe even like see it. See how there's like that white variegation? So that's the thread, and I added it to the base of the heel, and I think I'm gonna add it to the top of the toe too. Except it's kind of like hard to figure out how to, whatever. Anyways, I added some sort of nylon in some part of the sock, and I'm hoping that helps. Otherwise, darning, we'll work with it. But I'm really excited about these. This is the first one, so I do have a whole nother sock to knit up, but I'm really enjoying the pattern, and I think I would definitely knit it again. So this has been fun to work on. I'm using Chowgoos. This isn't a set, but I bought a fixed pair for socks because I love the set that my husband purchased for me, and this has made knitting socks really enjoyable. I don't mind double points. They tend to hurt my hands, but this has made a difference in my sock game, which has never really been a game, but now maybe it is. So that's the other project that I'm kind of mainly working on. I have the little Santa's clothesline still going. The morel sweater, to be honest, I have not really picked up. Part of the reason why is because a lot of the time when I am knitting, I'm playing with my daughter, or now I'm feeding our other daughter, or you know, sitting with her on my lap, or whatever we're doing, and that blow-to lopey is really, you know, it is rustic, and I don't necessarily want, I think Millie has pretty sensitive skin right now, so if I am knitting with something, it's usually a soft wool. So yeah, that is what I'm working on. I was asked a few questions. I did like a little Q&A just because I thought maybe to have a little bit more content. But so I'll start with looking at what those were. Marina Hoka on Instagram, she's great. She's a young mom too. That's another thing. I never thought I would use social media or those platforms as like a, I don't know, getting to know people on, I don't know, making, you know, connections, a little bit of deeper connections, I suppose. But I have found that I have come across and connected with a lot of young knitting moms. There have been a few that like have, you know, had babies just in a few weeks of when I have or when we have, and you know, other just young moms that are doing it. You realize they have the same, you know, probably thoughts as you, want to be knitting all the time. It's fun to see what they're knitting on when they have time to knit. But that has been really special, and there's yeah, just a few that I've connected with, and they're like all over in Germany and in New Zealand and Australia. yeah, just all over. And that's been really nice. And I have to say, like, some of the women I've connected with, and when I'm replying back to them, you know, I'm feeding our daughter at 3 in the morning, and it's like nice to have that connection. Like, there's somebody out there that's doing the exact same thing that I am, that's probably kind of thinking similar thoughts, and it doesn't feel so lonely then at 3 in the morning when you're sitting in a awkward feeding position and want to be sleeping. So that's been really, really nice. So Marina asks, do you have any time to knit now with the baby? And I think I'm really trying to, my husband's trying to snuggle here, get the little one back to sleep. But yes, I do have time to knit. I felt like I didn't have time to knit before, and now feel like I don't have any time to knit, but somehow I'm still knitting because that is so important for me. I like need to. So I'll wake up early, you know, in the mornings and do it. It's a balance between sacrificing like personal time, you know, when it's just me and I'm not like in full mom mode, or sacrificing sleep right now, because both of those are so precious commodities that are hard to come by, but I'm trying to find a balance that works. So I do have time to knit. I'll knit in the mornings. I'll knit when I'm playing with our older daughter Fern, or I'll knit like after I feed Millie and she's like, you know, extremely tired in my lap. Or so I try to find small pockets, just a couple stitches here and there. Let's see, The Boring Knitter on Instagram, who is another knitting mom. She has really beautiful stuff. How long have you lived in Wisconsin, and do you like it? I have lived in Wisconsin pretty much my whole life. I grew up, both my husband and I, we grew up near the Milwaukee area, so southeast Wisconsin. And yeah, I've lived here my whole life. The only times that I moved away were for college, when I lived in the Twin Cities, and for a year after college when my husband and I lived in kind of like the middle of nowhere in Illinois for a year for my husband's job. And now we're back in Wisconsin, and I love it. I don't think I did as a kid for some phases, but I love it. I love the 4 seasons. Honestly, that's like a big part of it to me. But yeah, all my family's here, all my husband's family's here, so where they are is kind of where we want to be. And yeah, right now we live a little bit further away from our families, but we're still able to see them when we can. And we live in kind of a pretty small little like village town. But yeah, I do love living in Wisconsin. And I feel like a lot of people that live in Wisconsin really love living in Wisconsin. So if that makes any sense. Let's see, what types of, this is from Woolen Ways on Instagram, and she asks, what types of knitting are you most drawn to? Stranded colorwork, cabling, etc., and why? And when I saw this question, I had no idea my answer. And I don't know if I actually have an answer. I feel like I have a pretty eclectic taste in my knitting, and it's kind of like what I'm drawn to right then, like what kind of a project I need to work on. I'd like to stay color work, but I've never really done like a big, you know, full-blown color work project, you know, where there's like tons and tons of colors. I'd like to, you know, like Fair Isle. I've done a little bit of it, but I really do like mindless knitting. I love mindless knitting. With like a little bit of interesting details here and there. I don't know if I have a favorite. I do like cables, but I'm not like, you know, not everything that I knit has to be cables. And I do really like knitting like novelty things. So like stuffed animals or little like house decorations or quick little projects like that. Here, like I'll go grab like one of those stuffed animals that I knit. One second. Okay, so like things like this. Doot, doot, doot. It's a little otter. I knit it for Fern. I think when I was pregnant with her. And I think it's with scrap yarn. There he is. Hello. He has a little mouth. And I think you can kind of see his eyes and his ears. And I, you know, stuffed him with polyfill, and then I made a little like pocket and a little fish for him to snack on when he wants, and then that just slides right in. But like I love knitting things like this too, kind of just you know, they don't always turn out. I've made a fair few that, you know, trying to be an owl and it looks like a, I don't know, a penguin or something. But I enjoy knitting these kinds of things too, because they're quick, they're fun. You know, or little decorations for the house, or yeah, things like that. And I'll have to bring out projects that I've done like that, but just to give you an idea, like I love, you know, knitting garments and accessories. I do love knitting, but I feel like I have so many that I don't want to just kind of keep acquiring those unless it's something that I really, really love. So I do kind of knit a lot of these, like that farm yard play mat that I made, that I showed in a past video, just like things like that that are a little different, a little out there, and kind of you have to think out of the box a little bit. So next question. I hope that was a good enough answer. I feel like that was a kind of a cop-out answer, but oh well. Okay, knitting with cat hair. Who Nikki, she has a great podcast. If you haven't listened to her podcast, I really like following along, so check her out. She asks, which knitting project are you most proud of? And I posted this on Instagram a couple weeks ago, but I think if I had to pick right now, at least right now, what it would be is Tiny Owl Knits, who's the designer. I love her. I don't think she's not really active right now in the doing her knitting, but I love her. She has videos on YouTube from like 10 years ago that I am probably like the highest viewer. Like I have probably watched those like 50 times just because those are like really comforting to me. She's really just eclectic and interesting to watch, and I find her really, really enjoyable to have as company when I knit. So this is probably the knit that I am most proud of. And the monitor dropped. It's her Celtic tree cowl. I think it came out maybe like 5 years ago. And it's big, and it's a big tubed cowl that flips in and out. And it's based on the Celtic ogham, the tree, like the not the language. I guess it is kind of like a language, or like the alphabet, the Celtic tree alphabet called the ogham. And so it's all different tree names, and the charts for this were insane. It was really long, but if you kind of did it little by little, it was so fun to knit up, because it was just, you know, kind of like knitting by numbers, really. So yeah, this is probably one of my favorite knits. It was out of when she put this pattern out, I think like the next day I went online, found the exact same yarn and bought it. And I've never really done that with any other pattern besides this one, where it was like I wanted to look exactly like that. And so that's what I did. I think it's yeah, Nature Spun Sport Weight is what it was. But yeah, I absolutely love this. It's so snuggly, it's so warm. You can like even like double it up and it's just like giant and so squishy. But yeah, just all the trees on it, I don't know, it's a special piece to me, and I feel cozy when I wear it. And yeah, but all different trees. Isn't that so cool? Gosh, I love this. And this was like the first kind of big, you know, two-way color work project that I did. It took me a really long time. This is a lot of knitting, but it's held up really well. I do like depill it every once in a while. Blocking it really helped after I did knit it, just to kind of have it all flush out nicely. Yeah, this might be my favorite. I really love this. Anyways, you should check that pattern out. It's really cool, and people have done really cool color choices with it. So I think this Celtic tree cowl is my favorite thing that I've ever knit. So that, and then what else do I have? I don't think I have anything else to show, but we'll go on to the next question. Okay, Patricia asks, how did I come to learn knitting? So I came to learn knitting when I was really young. My aunt is a major knitter. She has been knitting ever since I can remember. She always has a pair of circulars like around her neck, or some double points in her hair, or you know, her knitting gauge on her keychain. She's a big knitter, and she worked at a yarn store like when I was younger, and so like we would always go into the yarn store as kids, and I remember like the button wall was so magical. And not that I ever got super into knitting as a kid, but I learned from her, and I learned you know, through the window, around the back, out the door, and off hops Jack. That's how I learned. So she taught me and my sisters, and I picked it up kind of again in high school, and then petered out, and then really picked it up in college. And that's like when I knit my first sweater. It was a time when my husband was we weren't married yet, but he was on a 6-month internship, so I was living by myself in the Twin Cities, and I needed something to do with my hands to keep my mind occupied. So that's kind of when I picked up knitting more seriously. Not more seriously, but just more. And that's like when I knit my first sweater and really started to kind of get very sucked in. And that's also kind of when I started spinning too, which I know I haven't talked a lot about on here. I really want to start. I just haven't had spinning time, and I hope to soon. And actually a couple weeks ago, my daughter always like plays with my wheel, and she came running out and said, "Pop," and one of the little connectors, she had been like pressing the foot pedal really hard, and I think one of the little connectors popped, so I had to reorder a piece, and so it's not currently functioning right now, but it will be soon. So that is how I came to learn knitting. My daughter, our oldest daughter Fern, has started to sit on my lap while I'm knitting, especially with like the big chunky needles. And I have been teaching her, she really likes bunnies, so I've been teaching her the rhyme of in through the bunny hole, around the tree, out the bunny hole, and off hops she. And she'll hold on to the needles and we'll do the motions together. And that has been really special. And like, you know, she'll come over and she'll say, "Me knit?" Like she wants to sit with me and knit. And or like in the car the other day, she just started saying, you know, bunny hole around, you know, she's like trying to like say the rhyme. So that was really special because I hope to allow our daughters the opportunity to fall in love with knitting if they would like to. So I hope to teach her that too. And then let's see, there's one other question was another question that was on from a YouTube subscriber, and they asked if I could show some of like the baby knits and knits that I've made for our daughter over the years, and I would love to. I didn't think I was gonna have time to record this podcast episode, and all the sweaters are either in their rooms, my daughter's closet, or packed away waiting to be brought out when Millie is a little bit bigger. So, and I was not gonna you know, dance with the devil this morning and try and go into her room and sneak those out and risk waking her up. So maybe next episode I would love to bring those out and talk about them, because I do have a few sweaters that she really has worn a lot, and then I do have some things that it was like, that was probably why did I think that a toddler or a baby would want to wear that. So I would love to bring those out, and maybe that will be kind of an idea for the next episode. So that's kind of all I have. I have lots of other things that I want to make. I'm not even going to go down that road because that's probably an even longer road than the one I'm on. But yeah, things have been going well here. We're all adjusting, and yeah, we're all adjusting. And I am so glad to have my husband home. He has a really good chunk of time home, which was not necessarily the case with when Fern was born. So this is a really special time for our family, and yeah, I'm trying to enjoy it. You know, people always say, oh, enjoy it, goes by so fast, and I really do. But there's also our really hard times where it's like, I am not enjoying this right now, and yeah, I am kind of wishing away the next 5 minutes, or, you know, when they're both crying and like I'm crying and my husband is like, you know, just kind of looking at all three of us like smiling, and you know, he keeps his wits about him. He's so balanced and even keeled, so thank goodness for that. But yeah, things have been overall really, really good. And yeah, there are tricky times, but we're figuring it out and doing it kind of one day at a time. But the days sure go by fast all of a sudden. And when I can sneak in some knitting, I've been trying to. And yeah, that's kind of, I think, all the headspace that I have for this morning. And they're both starting to squirm, so I think that means my time is up. Thank you so much for watching, if you're still watching. And if you'd like to subscribe or let me know what you're working on. You know, I'd love to know if any of you have like an autumn knit. So I kind of am calling like these sweaters my autumn knit. And so if you have anything like that, or something that you are, you know, just like cozying up with this season, and, you know, on the most fall day you can, you want to pull out this project and knit on it, let me know what project that is. I would love to know, because this is just the best time of year, at least in obviously the northern hemisphere, for knitting on things that bring us those comforting feelings. So let me know what you're working on. I'd love to see. But again, thank you for following along. And I do not know when the next episode will be. Hopefully it will be sometime sooner rather than later. I think that's all I've got. So thank you. I hope you're having a really good week, and I hope you are finishing a project that you wanted to finish and you're starting on something or thinking about starting on something that you just found and you're really excited about, or that you've had in your queue for a long time. So one of those, if you can do that this month, that would be great. I'm gonna try to, well, I think I'm doing a good job of doing that, so maybe I should tone it down a little bit. But again, thank you so much for following along, and I shall see you next time. Bye.